never be afraid to stand up for what's right, to what you know to be right in your heart. And for people that are free thinkers, that are able to think on multiple levels, that are able to analyze the world from their own perspective and not worry about what other people think, it becomes abundantly clear just how rigid minded most of humanity truly is. And I was on Twitter before. This is an issue that to me is very important that I haven't had the chance to cover yet. But I will cover it in the future. Don't be surprised if I make a documentary about it, just because if we don't stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, then what are we? What are we morally? I mean, that's why I come out so hard on the issue of abortion. I stand up for little babies who I believe they're babies. I don't think they're clumps of cells, and they don't have a voice. So if I don't speak up for them, what does that say about me? What does that say about my morality? What does that say about my relationship to God? You know, it's funny because with the spread of the internet and ebooks and Amazon, and you could order books and have them at your house in a day, we have more access to knowledge than any time in human history. And because of that, we actually have the unique ability to interact with some of the greatest minds the world has ever known. And when I was reading Ben Franklin's autobiography, I was struck by the fact that Ben Franklin at one point in his life was a vegetarian, because he was thinking about God-given rights and the rights that he had. And he realized that he was a hypocrite if he was saying he should have these rights and then he was slaughtering animals and eating them. And eventually, Ben Franklin decided not to be a vegetarian because he was at a fishing dock and a fisherman caught a big fish, and when they cut the fish's stomach open, there was a little fish inside of it. So, Ben Franklin drew the conclusion that, all right, well, we are animals, we are biologically made to consume one another. And from that point on, he didn't feel guilty about eating animals. And the reason reading that really struck me is because before I had read that, I had gone through a similar journey. I had thought a lot about my God-given rights, and I wanted to try to avoid eating animals because it just felt like the right thing to do, to be a better person on this earth. And for a while, very short while, like a month, I dabbled in veganism, didn't like it, wasn't for me. For longer periods in my life, I've dabbled in vegetarianism, and I do that on and off. I'm not like, I wouldn't exactly be the best vegetarian, but like I'll have a month here, a month there where I don't eat any meat, and I'm actually happier when I don't. It's tough for me when other people around me are eating meat. So it really struck me that Ben Franklin and myself had gone through a similar journey. So the reason I'm talking about what I'm talking about now is I was just on Twitter, and Mike Cernovich had brought up the morality of veganism. I actually agree with his take. Basically, Cernovich, I believe, I don't want to misrepresent him, has argued that it is immoral to eat an animal. I disagree with that. I think that we are biologically made to consume one another. It's not immoral if the animal eats me. It's not immoral if I eat the animal. So anyway, Cernovich had tweeted something along the lines of veganism triggers right-wing people, the way leftists are triggered. And, I had mentioned in the comments, I said, I actually dabbled in veganism, and if we have God-given rights, then animals should have God-given rights. And a man in the comment, who turns out he's a cattle rancher, which I have nothing but respect for, responded to that in a manner that takes offense, like kind of like basically implying that I'm an idiot, which is hilarious. Sorry, there's a plane going by above. So, I just wanted to take some time to talk about the morality of food, or the morality of eating animals, because even though I drew the same conclusion as Ben Franklin, I disagree with Cernovich on this. I don't think it's immoral to consume animals. I think we're meant to eat one another. I do think there is a clear delineation line. I do think that animals have natural rights if we do. And I don't think it's preposterous to say that animals should be treated with basic human decency. Meaning, even if they're going to be raised to be killed and be made into food, they should be treated with respect. They shouldn't live a life of fear. They shouldn't live a life of pain. Birds and cows should be able to walk on grassy fields and eat appropriate food and have appropriate space that they need to live comfortable lives without being tortured. So I engaged in a conversation with someone on Twitter because, well, I usually don't do it because it's just not worth my time, but something about it just really ticked me off, to the point where we were talking about negative and positive rights, and this man was saying, making just ridiculous arguments like, well, animals can't have positive rights, animals can't pay taxes, they can't agree to a contract. So I just pointed out, well, you do know animal abuse is illegal, right? Which means they do have positive rights. And the point I really want to make in this video is that there is a morality that doesn't get discussed to a voiceless species on this, to a voiceless group on this earth. And the way livestock are treated is inhumane, and it's not right. Because we all see a dog being abused and we're outraged, but the big food companies, the mega corporations, and there's a few of them, they breed animals by the thousands, and these animals are born onto conveyor belts, and they move from the conveyor belts. If there's anything wrong with them, they're just murdered, they're killed. If they get past that stage, for instance, chickens, they're put in these chicken coops, and they have no space. They live literally on top of all the other chickens, and they're just pumped food, and they're not permitted to go out. Most of them never see sunlight. Think about that. They never see sunlight. Imagine spending 2 years in a little coop, in a little chicken coop, with another chicken on top of you your entire life. No space to stretch, no space to move, and you don't even get to see the sunlight. That's not right. It's wrong. And I will always stand up for what's right and what is moral. Because if we don't do that, what are we as human beings? So I just wanted to make this impromptu video. I'm sitting out here in my yard at night enjoying some cold weather because I enjoy my solitude. But I just wanted to give you a few thoughts about animal rights and my take on it in terms of morality, in terms of right and wrong, and in terms of standing up for what you believe in. So always stand up for what you believe in. Hopefully I'll have the chance to make documentaries on this in the future. I'm very passionate about it, actually. I'm so busy fighting the culture war, I don't have time to... I don't put as much time as I should talking about the rights of another group that has no voice. And I'll always speak for groups that don't have a voice. So as always, power to the individual, long live liberty.